Hello, everyone. Good morning. Hope you can hear me okay. Yes, thank you, Dyra, Gladys, Joel. It's nice to see you. It's nice to see that you've logged on. Okay, so hello. Hi, what's your name?
Louis.
Luis, good to see you. Thank you, Luis, for coming in. Okay, everyone. So, as usual, I would like you to begin today with reading while we're allowing some of our classmates to come in, except this time I want it to be George Washington Gomez, okay? This book is written in a very different style than The House on Mango Street, okay? You'll notice that right away on page 1. I don't want you to be, obviously you have a right to your own feelings, but don't be daunted by the language here, okay? This is meant to be a challenge for you. And it's one that I think that you can do. I certainly don't expect for you to be looking up every single word that you run into, okay? Again, this is not a literature class. We're not analyzing all of the style, the narrative structure, all of the characters, okay? We're really more focused on the main character, okay, who is Gualinto. All right, I'll put Gualinto's name into the chat, right? So we have a couple of major characters. Gualinto is our most important one, okay? He is, as we said about Esperanza, the protagonist. So in the very beginning of the story, though, we don't even really get to meet Gualinto as a developed character, right? We're getting a little backstory, okay? We actually, the person who we focused on first is his uncle, Feliciano, okay? So early in the story, Feliciano is one of our major characters. We get to hear a lot of his thoughts and a lot of his actions, okay? But that's what you should be mostly focused on, right? Are these two characters, okay, the way they think and how they act, all right? Don't be overwhelmed, like I said, by all of the detail that Americo Paredes uses to create the world that they live in, okay? The border world of Jonesville, or the other town that they originally, that Gualinto was born in, San Pedrito. So what I would suggest though, because many of you on the first day said you wanted to improve your vocabulary, okay? This is a great opportunity to do that. What I would suggest is you have your notebook, okay? Your reading notebook or school notebook. And this is what one of my professors at UCLA actually encouraged us to do when we were reading some works from the 19th century, right? That's from 200 years ago. It is English, but it's more of a what we would call an elevated level of style, using words that we don't normally use now, okay? What they suggested that we do is write a list of the words at the back of our notebook, okay? So when you run across a word that you're interested in, okay, that you think could be important, one that you want to take the time to look up later, okay? Maybe you think it's useful to understanding who Gualinto is or who his uncle is. Write it down here, okay? And after you're done reading, then you go and you look it up. All right, so let's go ahead and take a few minutes now to do a little bit of the reading. I am going to continue to monitor the waiting room as more of our classmates come in. And then I'll check in with you about our reflection. So for right now, you are reading George Washington Gomez. Good morning, Ileana. I've made you co-host. If you could help me out with the waiting room, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone. So let's go ahead and get started with our reflection for today. The reflection that I would like you to focus on is one that'll actually help you with your discussion board for this week. Now, a couple of things. I'm only asking for one post for the discussion board this week because we have our final draft for SA1 that is due on Friday. So that should be your primary focus. However, you still have to demonstrate online activity as part of your attendance for this course. So make sure that you do post to the discussion board. And I want you to start drafting out your response. So in an effort to help you with that, especially because we're going to be focusing the rest of our class on this upcoming final draft, I want you to answer this question. What makes for a good leader? How can an individual be a leader in a community? So I'd like you to respond to that now. Take a few minutes to just do a free write. I'll set the timer, and then I want to check in with you. I would like you to do your best to include what are qualities, what are characteristics that make someone a good leader, and to include some examples. These can be personal examples, just people you know that you think are good community leaders, but they could also be more like celebrities, like historical examples too, okay? It's really up to you. So go ahead and answer that question. What makes for a good leader? How can someone be an individual? Sorry, how can an individual be a leader in a community? Go ahead and do a free write for a few minutes now. I will check back in and I look forward to hearing how you all define what it means to be a leader in your community. I will be taking attendance while you are writing your reflections, so feel free to unmute yourself and just let me know that you're here when you hear your name called. If you're looking for the reflection question, because I've stopped sharing my screen, I typed it into the chat. Of course, if you have any questions, you can unmute yourself and ask them, or you can type them into the chat. I'll be checking both. Okay, Luis. Okay. Ryan.
Here.
Okay. Emily.
Here.
Okay, good morning. Brandon. Brandon. No, okay. Pedro. Pedro. Alejandro.
Good morning, Professor.
Angel. Angel here. No. Jasmine. Jasmine. How about Christopher? Christopher. Okay. Angeli.
Here.
Good morning. Dyra.
Here.
Thank you. Richard, not here. That's right. Stephanie.
Here.
Good morning. Gladys.
Here.
Good morning. Joel.
Here.
Good morning. Melissa.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Consuelo.
Here.
Good morning. Okay. Yadira. Yadira. Okay, and Maria. And Ruben.
Here.
Great, thank you. Okay, just under a minute to finish up your initial reflection on leadership. I look forward to hearing your suggestions. Okay. All right. So what are some attributes? What are some qualities that you all think make someone a good leader?
Making good decisions.
Making good decisions. Okay, great. Angelique, could you explain that one a little bit more? What is it? How does someone make good decisions?
They should know like about their community so that can help them make the good decisions.
Great, thank you for elaborating that, right? So knowing more about your community, maybe knowing what your community needs, you know, or what your community values. Okay, I like that. So knowledge of your community. Good. Okay, I saw a few of you in the chat type in some things. I think Emily put in confidence, great. Taking responsibility. Right. Keeping control under pressure, great. Helping others to learn things. These are great ideas. Helping others to learn. And then Consuelo said, someone who encourages teamwork rather than bossing others around. Very good. Okay. So these are all excellent. We might even call this this list of qualities here criteria. Okay, criteria would be these attributes that we might use to judge a leader by, right? Well, how good is this leader at making decisions that are based on what the community, what they know about the community's interests, their values, their needs? How confident are they? Emily, I think you mentioned confidence. When I think of confidence, I see how that can be important. Maybe at first I thought, oh, maybe it's the performance of confidence, right? But having that confidence, I think, could be really important because that might rub off on the people who are following, right? Like they feel maybe more trust or more security when someone shows confidence, right? Like this is the right way to do things or the right way to go. Yeah, is that what you were thinking, Emily?
Yeah, I was thinking like they were sure about their decisions and yeah.
Okay, great, excellent. Okay, so. And this is, yeah, you see it as connected to decision making, right? Good. And yeah, so when you all are doing your discussion board post and you're considering these aspects and other aspects too, make sure that you are elaborating on why, you know, these attributes are important. You know, if you think good decision making is a characteristic of a leader, right? Well, explain that a little bit more, right? Just as Angeli did, where she said, well, it's really good decision making comes from knowing your community, right? We can push that idea a little bit further. And I added to that by saying, yeah, knowing what they need, knowing what they care about, okay?
Garner just freeze, or is it just me?
I'm not experiencing any kind of a freeze. Did anyone else? Okay, it's fine.
Yeah.
Stephanie, did you get a freeze?
Yes.
All right, I
Did
just
I?
got a message saying that my connection was unstable. So, okay, hopefully that doesn't continue. Please let me know if it freezes again, okay? There we go. Okay. All right, so why did I ask this question? Well, we started reading George Washington Gomez last week, okay? And we are at a transition point where we're moving from the house on Mango Street, a story about Esperanza, who is expected, but who is struggling with this idea of coming back to her community, right? And we're also at the beginning of another story about a character Gualinto, whose father has this wish that he will become a leader of his people, okay? So in many ways, this concept of leadership and community is very important for us to think through critically, because that's a bridge between both stories, right? So keep in mind, how do Esperanza and Gualinto, we're not that far yet, maybe it's possible some of you have read ahead, but how do they measure up to this criteria of leadership that you all have helped to construct? Now, there are many more things that we can add, okay? And then another thing too is, you know, one thing is having a list, but then you start to prioritize things, right? What characteristics are the most important in terms of leadership, right? And how do they descend, okay? So when we're thinking about how do we judge the character, how do we judge anything, we come up with criteria, and then we order that criteria in terms of what's most important and what's least important. And then we apply that to what it is that we're looking at, okay? So that's a little bit of that's a preview of a few different skills, okay? One of them is definition, okay? That's what we're gonna be doing after this paper. We're gonna be focusing a lot on defining our terms, okay? And another is making claims of value, okay? These are personal judgments. Oh, this person's a good leader, this person's a bad leader, right? Well, how do you do that more academically? Well, you come up with a list of traits, you order them according to what are priorities, and then you apply them, okay? Well, how is Esperanza as far as a decision maker? Where is she at in terms of confidence? Does she take responsibility? How does she handle herself under pressure, and so on, okay? So anyway, that's a little bit of a preview. We applied that in this way that helps us understand both characters. Now, something to keep in mind is that you do need to write a conclusion for this paper, for the Esperanza paper, okay? And I do walk you through the parts of a conclusion in this week's module, okay? One of the things that you're gonna have to do in your conclusion, the final section of the conclusion, you have to make a prediction. You have to predict what will happen after the novel ends, okay? And that's a very important part of your conclusions grade. So I want everyone who's here and listening and doing this activity, make sure that you look at the lecture on conclusions. You can see what's required for the conclusion. The last part of the conclusion is considering consequences, okay? And I explain here in writing, I don't mean punishment, right? Because we think of consequences sometimes in that way. There will be consequences for this behavior, right? No, I mean consequences as in outcomes, as in the effects, the things that follow, okay? What happens next? So one way that writers, that researchers write conclusions is they think, well, what's next? Where do we go from here, right? Now, you've just been writing this paper about Esperanza and how she's developed. So I want you to use your own reasoning, your own interpretation of who she is to figure out, what do you think is going to happen next, okay? You do not need to write a book in the conclusion, okay? This prediction that you write can be like 1, 2, 3 sentences. That's it, okay? So I know some of us out there are creative writers and you might want to write a whole page on it. Don't do that, okay? The conclusion should not be a full page long by any means. It's going to be your shortest paragraph because there is no evidence in a conclusion, okay? No support sandwiches. You are drawing upon all of the evidence that you made previously, and you're going to make a reasonable prediction of what you think will happen next, okay? So please make sure to review this page and do the pre-write here at the bottom, making a prediction. Select that. Remember, pre-writes are just practice quizzes. You don't get graded for this. It's more like helping you write your paper in chunks or in steps, okay? This is an important step. Don't forget it. And you can see the pre-write is just reminding you of, it's really a paraphrase of what I've just said here, okay? Make a prediction, what will happen to Esperanza after the house on Mango Street ends, okay? It should be a logical prediction based on how you have analyzed her development previously. Okay, so another thing that I want to say, this is separate, all right? This is about attendance. I do want to maintain flexibility for you. If you are sick, I understand you should not come into class. But if you're not sick, if you're healthy and you're able, and it is you're part of the group that's assigned for coming into class, when you sign up for a hybrid, it's your responsibility to be present, okay? Physically present for the portion of the class that you're required to. So please, if you are part of the group that is assigned to come into class, okay? I think we all learn better when we have more of that kind of, when we're sharing the same physical space, okay? Also at the same time, there is not pressure to do this if you are feeling any kind of sick symptoms, okay? And if you are, that's okay. Email me in advance and say, hey, Professor, I'm not gonna pass the screening portal. I'm not feeling well today. I don't know what this is. That's fine. But that's where being assertive and communicating, okay, demonstrates qualities of being a good student, all right? So make sure to do that. And come into class when you're not sick, all right? And it's your turn to come into class. Okay, so, and if you have any questions about that, just email me, all right, and we can talk more. All right, I want to spend time with you writing your drafts further, okay? Part of what we're doing this week is revising our drafts. So that way we can get ready to submit them. So there are two major stages of revision, and I go over them this week in lecture, so I'm not gonna go into detail right now because you'll have a chance to do that. I just want to show you the lecture page. All right, it did not go to where. Sorry, my screen is taking time to load. I don't know why the internet is slow here. Okay. All right, so you can see in the week 6 module, 3/4 of the way down, and Luis, I'll do this for you here. There's a lecture page titled Revision in Stages. Okay. As you're continuing to write and you move into the revision stage, I want you to think of it as being 2 parts. The first part is what I call global revisions. Those are big things, okay? That's like making a new paragraph. That's revising your thesis statement or topic sentences. That's finding new evidence, okay? Big stuff. Do that first. Do not worry about grammar until you are happy with all of your claims and all of your support. So take care of claims and support first. Then you move to the second phase of revision, micro revision, okay? Now it's time for you to think about grammar, okay? There are 2 grammar lessons that you have to show mastery of in this paper. The first one is fragments, okay? You've got to make sure you're writing in complete sentences, okay? The second one is you've got to show me that you can connect complete thoughts together, okay? And avoid what are called run-ons. And that is the grammar lesson for this week. So again, it's in the week 6 module. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to use the whiteboard here for you all to see. Hoping you can see it okay. All right. Can everyone see what's written here on the board? Give me a thumbs up reaction if you can. Thank you, Gladys.
I could only see like a partial of it.
Okay. What you need to see, Alejandro, is the word run-ons. Can you see that?
Yes.
Good. And then there are 2 sentences that I have right below it. Can you see that?
until where it says become.
Become. All right. Thank you for letting me know. Let's see. I wonder if I stand on this side.
That's
Can you
better.
see that better?
Right. Now it's moving too far right.
That's moving too far. Right? It's trying to keep me in the center. All right. Thank you.
Right there. Oh, well, now it went.
Yeah, I know. It's just gonna, I'm gonna have to adjust the, I'm gonna have to take over control of the camera. Okay, Alejandro, let me know when you can see it, okay?
That's perfect, Professor. Perfect.
Good. All right. So we're going to leave it there for right now. Okay. So a run-on happens when we are, well, basically we have two complete sentences and we've smashed them together. Okay. That's the simplest way to say it. We have not joined them properly. Okay. So here we have two complete sentences. Remember that a complete sentence involves a subject, a verb, and the ability to stand alone, okay? So let's look at this first one here. The reader follows the story of a young man, okay? Subjects are nouns or pronouns, all right? So they're persons, places, or things. This is the subject, okay? And here is the verb, okay? We don't have any funny words like because or although, okay? Those subordinate conjunctions that would make this not stand alone, so we're good. We got a complete sentence here, all right? And it's concluded with a period, all right? This is an independent clause. It can stand alone, all right? That's an important term. I'm gonna try to avoid a lot of technical terms, but you've got to know a few, okay? So we can stay together. It's independent because it doesn't have any of those funny words like although, because, you know, while, stuff like that. So when we have one independent clause, we can make a full sentence, put a period, that's it. Here's another one, same thing. We have our subject, he, I'll read the whole sentence, he attempts to become a famous writer. The verb is attempts. Okay, so we have a run-on when we don't have a period there, okay? When we're missing a period and we read this one complete independent clause into the next one, and that is not joined properly. The other way, so to fix a run-on, what do you need? One way to fix a run-on, use a period, okay, make two sentences. That is the simplest way to fix a run-on. There are 4 ways to fix a run-on that I talk about in lecture. I'm going to do the Happy Meal version of it right now, okay? The second way to fix a run-on, all right, semicolon, okay? A semicolon is used to separate two independent clauses. Okay. Now, in addition to what we call the fused sentence, that's when there's this blank space between two complete ideas. Okay. The other error that gets made that creates run-ons, the most common one is students just put a comma there. Don't do that. Okay. A comma by itself is not enough. Commas are not strong enough to join together independent clauses, okay? If you want to use a comma, then you have to use one of the fanboys, okay? If you've heard of the fanboys before, please give me a thumbs up reaction. Some of you may have heard of it before. Alejandro knows it. Anyone else? Stephanie's heard of it. Luis, have you heard of the fanboys before? No. No? Okay. Stephanie, any other? Good. A few minutes, 3, 4, 5, maybe half of us have. All right. So here are the fanboys. 4, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. Okay, I'm not going to ask you to memorize a lot of stuff. You got to memorize this because this will help you fix run-ons, okay? I use the fanboy so because, well, the meaning of the word so fits best here logically, okay? The reader follows the story of a young man. So actually, no, it doesn't. Is there a better one we could use? The reader follows the story of a young man
And
attempts to become a famous writer. Is there any one of these we could use? And would be the simplest one, okay? Stylistically, not great, but grammatically it works, okay? And when it comes to your grammar grade, that's all I care about, okay? Are you writing in grammatically correct sentences, all right? I probably would rewrite this sentence to make it flow a little differently. But if we're just trying to fix something quickly, that's a quick fix, comma and a fanboy.
Professor, so you said that was like the simple one or like the easy one. So what would be your recommendation? Like what would be the best fit for that?
Yeah, you know what, actually, what I would probably try to do, let's see. The reader follows the story of a young man. I would write as. I would do the final technique. Okay. As is one of those trigger words. It's a subordinate conjunction. Okay. So whatever comes after as is now a dependent clause. And that's what the final technique is, subordinate. Okay. Use one of those subordinate conjunctions, change the structure of the sentence, okay? The reader follows the story of a young man as he attempts to become a famous writer, okay? That flows much more to me, okay? It's helping me understand what is going on, why we are following him in the first place. Okay, so look at the lecture on run-ons. As I reviewed your mini essays, many of you had run-ons, had multiple run-ons, okay? So look at your mini essay again, okay? I highlighted in some cases what I saw as run-ons. I did not go overboard. I probably just highlighted one example of it. I might have done more than one. I would say, if you're unsure, if there's a run-on, email me, okay? Run-ons are real simple. It's just two sentences put together, and I can tell you very quickly, yes, that's a run-on, or no, it's not, okay? Now, don't get the wrong idea. Just because something is long, just because a sentence is long doesn't mean it's a run-on. It's only a run-on when we have two independent clauses that are not joined properly, okay? I mean, I could do something really short like, he sits, she stands, okay? That's a run-on, right? The length of it doesn't matter, right? He sits, but she stands. Now it's correct, okay? So remove the idea that a run-on is about a sentence that's too long. That's not correct at all, okay? You can have a very long sentence that is grammatically correct. You can have a very short sentence that's grammatically incorrect, okay? What matters is you've got to have independent clauses joined together, okay? You got to do it properly. And these are the 4 ways to do it. Make 2 sentences, use a semicolon. If you're going to use a comma, put a fanboy there. And number 3, subordinate it, okay? Use a subordinate conjunction before one of the 2 clauses you choose, okay? All right.
Professor, so subordinate would be like for that word as?
Yes, this is an example of a subordinate conjunction, okay? There are many subordinate conjunctions, right? I posted a list of subordinate conjunctions when we learned about fragments in the week 3 module, okay? So go back to that week 3 module if you want a full list, okay? There's a handout there with a lot of them. Subordinate conjunctions are great. They add a lot of style to our sentences. And it's not just style, but they help us understand how our ideas connected. Like if we go back to this example here in the center. He sits, she stands, okay? Well, how are these two ideas related to each other? When I put the word but in there, I see, oh, contrast. I want to emphasize that these two are acting differently, okay? If I would have said something like, and, now I get the sense, yes, they're different, however, they're joined together. That word choice matters. And is a simple word that conveys difference but connection, okay? The word but indicates difference and opposition, okay? So, word choice matters. Focus on conjunctions because they teach us how ideas are connected, okay? So, I know we want to work on our adjectives, okay? I was going to use an expletive, but I'm being recorded right now. I don't want to do that, right? Don't worry about your adjectives, okay? Verbs and conjunctions, okay? You can probably guess I was going to say F adjectives, okay? Don't, right? That's how I know when something is just inflated, okay? When someone really doesn't have a lot to say, they focus a lot on adjectives, okay? Focus on your verbs and your conjunctions. I want to know, what are your ideas? What action are they conveying? And how are they connected? Okay? That's the word choice that matters. Those are important skills for us to work on. Okay, I say that. Now get back to your drafts, okay? Take out your final drafts or your rough drafts, wherever you're at in the process, okay? You're either adding, you're still writing, okay, which I know a lot of us are, given the size of our rough drafts from last week, okay? Or you're in probably that early stage of revision, claims and support, okay? Are these the right sentences? All right. It's possible some of us might be here at the level of sentences. It's up to you where you're at. You're still writing, you're doing global revision or micro revision. Go ahead and get started right now. Whenever you have a question, type it into the chat or just unmute yourself and ask. Let's do a little drafting time right now.
Hey, Professor, so whenever we use a fanboy, we're always going to use a comma regardless.
That's right. Yep, comma's got to come first.
Okay.
Perfect. Hi, Brandon. Are you here?
Yeah, I'm here, Mr.
Hi, Brandon. Thank you. Please check in if you come in after I take attendance. That way I can mark you down as present. Thank you.
Hey, professor. So I have a sentence where goes something like, she meets different friends along the way that teach her many good, and then I put slash bad things. Is that appropriate, or should, instead of putting the slash, I have to put and bad things?
Professor, you're muted.
Thank you, Eliana. Yeah, Alejandro, yeah, avoid the slashes. I'd rather have you use and, okay? Especially right now, keep challenging yourself to find the right conjunction, the right way to join them, okay? First, first draft slash, second draft and, okay? If that turns out to be the best choice, fine, keep it, okay? But if you can find something better, then, keep working towards that. But and works just fine.
And so if I put and, or I put that comma and then I put and, it would just end off with bad things. So
You only need, so here's the thing, and works in many different ways. Okay, one way is as a fanboy. It doesn't look like it's a fanboy in this case because you don't have an independent clause that comes after it. It's not like you have like a whole other sentence that you're joining it to. You're using it as part of a list, right?
okay.
Like you're listing, like when I go to, like, for instance, if I were to say, when I go to class, I need to make sure I have my book, my notebook, and my laptop, okay? And in that situation is not used as a fanboy because there's no other independent clause after it. It's just one more item, okay?
So no comma right there.
So, you know what? In that case, it's not required, okay? I don't want to, if you're interested and you want to know which way to go, okay, then I'll tell you about that. But if we want to keep it simple in that situation, it's up to you, okay?
So the independent clauses, it applies to the semicolon and the comma.
Yeah, so, right, exactly. You only use a semicolon when there's an independent clause in front and an independent clause after, okay? So for instance, I'll type in one of the examples I wrote on the board. He sits, she stands, okay? That's an example of how a semicolon can be used in the middle of a sentence, okay? Sometimes students, or not just students, but writers like to use the word however, okay? It's important that we use however correctly, okay? He sits, however, she stands. Okay, that is the correct use of the word however, okay? Sometimes students will write however as if it's a fanboy. It is not a fanboy, okay? You cannot write he sits, comma, however, she stands. Not correct, okay? It's a different part of speech. Doesn't work that way.
And is it appropriate to start a sentence with like?
With like?
Yeah.
I think it depends on context. If you have a sentence you want me to check, you can type it into the chat and then I can let you know. Here, I just typed into short example. This is when like can be used properly, right? Like her brother, Marisa also attended college. That's my sister's name, right? So there's the comparison of brother, right, to the subject, Marisa, okay? Like is being used at the very beginning, okay? Now I'm gonna look at the one that you typed in here. Like the Vargas kids that are up to no good. No, not in this case. Okay, there's a difference because you're using like as an example in this situation here, right? We're using like the way we talk, okay? What I would say here is, let's see, for instance, the Vargas kids that are up to no good and that steal cars and her parents warn her about to stay. Okay, no, we have to revise this because we need a full sentence. That kind of throws this off a little bit. You're using the Vargas kids as an example of something?
Yes, I am.
What are they an example of?
A comparison of like the bad things that they do and what
Good.
Esperanza doesn't want to do, or in her mindset what she gets advised not to do.
Good. Okay, so they're an example of like bad neighbors, right? Or what's bad about the community. Yeah, okay. So I would just write out, you know, a complete sentence, something like, for Esperanza, what's bad about the community, right? Or something that exemplifies what's bad about the community are the Vargas kids. The kids are up to no good, they steal cars, and they ignore their parents' warnings, okay? Okay, now I typed in a revision, okay? The way I might revise it would be something like, for Esperanza, the Vargas kids demonstrate what's bad about Mango Street. Or we could even get rid of the for Esperanza, you know, it just depends on the detail that you want to add, okay? The Vargas kids demonstrate what's bad about Mango Street. They're up to no good. They steal cars. They ignore their parents' warnings. Does that make sense?
Perfect, Professor. Thank you.
Alejandro, I'm so glad you brought up like, because I think that's a common way that we step into a fragment. Okay, so now you've got like one of your own personal fragment warnings, right? Scan your paper for the word like. Okay, see how many times you did it. It's probably a fragment. Revise it and subject, verb, independent clause. Okay, you'll be good. Okay, everyone, I'm gonna have to end class and lecture there for today. The focus for this week, revision, right? Keep making your final draft for essay 1 better. If you would like to meet with me and you can't make my office hours, email me with 3 times that work for you, okay? And I'll try to meet you during one of those times, okay? I am not limited to my office hours. It's just, those are times you can guarantee I'll be there, okay? If you can't make that, email me, give me 3 times that do work for you. And like I said, I'll do my best to meet you. Okay, everyone, thank you for your time. Have a good day.